making fabric, I like to sort all my scraps out into sizes. So I've just got my random small pieces in one pile, and then I have whatever strips in another pile. Once I've sorted them into groups, so I've just got strips. The strips get longer, and these are 2.5 inch wide. These are all my small bits. I always start off with the small bits first and join those together, and then I add the strips on. So as you can see here, like this one, I've got the small bits of fabric and then the strips on the outside, and that's how I start building up. So I'll just grab some of the small pieces and I string piece, and what that means is I'll find 2 lengths first that are similar, right sides together, and just so, and I'll just grab another small piece and just sew another. I'm using a 1.6 stitch length so that my stitches will stay together at the ends. I'm just grabbing scraps, and this is how I always start off, finding pieces that roughly match in length. And I have this thread snip. I'm just going to split those on the threads. Join them long ways, and now I'll just piece these small pieces, get them bigger in length. So I'll just mess around with them till I find something that I'm happy with. I'll put you across the bottom there. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to find one strip piece to go over one that's got joins. So I'm either creating a long strip, so another piece onto there and join a long strip, or I'll put a longer piece crossing any joins, and that's what I'm looking for with these small pieces right now. I could join that one onto there, continue that length of that strip. I'm pressing all of the seams flat, and now I'm just trimming them to give them a straight edge. I'm not trimming them any specific widths or a straight width, I'm just giving them straight edges, so it doesn't matter what angle I'm cutting that straight edge on, it's just so that I can join a strip to it to continue. So we'll head on over to the machine and start adding longer strips to join these small pieces together. When you've got strips, scrappy strips like this, you don't have much choice. You need to really get a straight edge to go down there. When you're joining these strips together, you don't want to pull on the fabric underneath because there could be some bias edges on the scrappy pieces. So I just let the machine pull it through itself and I just guide it. No pulling or pushing, just guide it through gently. The last thing you want to do is distort the fabric. I'm just building on the fabric, adding a strip in between each of the scrappy strips. This is one way of creating your fabric. So as you can see, I've got long strips in between. I haven't really got two joins meeting. So I'm just going to press this. Let me just cut that seam down there. That one I didn't trim off earlier. And now I'm just going to press these in to that long strip down the middle. As you can see, I've got seams going all over the place now, but that's okay. So now I'm going to square that off again, not square it off, straighten it, the edges. And I'll put that aside and start growing that, but I like to make small patches, perhaps no bigger than that, and then I'll join those together. I've cut the fabric to 13.5 inches square, and I've got a piece of foam, you could use batting, the same size, and I'm just going to go and quilt that all down together. I'm just drawing myself a 1-inch grid. So I've drawn myself as a guide a 1-inch grid, and I'm just going to go and quilt that on the machine. I'm using the heat of the iron to remove the pen marks. Because I used a heat erasable fusion pen, all the marks have gone once I iron it out. I want to cut it down to a 12.5 inch square, and I actually have one, so I'm going to use that, but you could just use a ruler and scissors. That's a 12.5 inch square. Fold it in half, clipping the top to hold it. And we need to cut the corners 1 inch up and 1.5 inches in. So 1 inch up, 1.5 inches in. And these ones are 1.5 inches in, but 1.25 up. 1.5 and 1.25. And cut those out. So I have the main outer and a piece of lining, both cut to the same. I've got a 2.5 inch square and a 10 inch zip. Fold the square in half and press. And we're just going to go and top stitch 1/8 of an inch down that folded edge. Now I want to cut that in half. Take the outer panel and mark the centre. Mark the centre of your zip. And I'm just matching up the centre. All I'm doing is lining up the zipper tab, so I'm just pinning that at the centre. Cut these down to 1 inch, and I'm just lining up the edge of that tab with the edge of my fabric, not the zipper, and that's where I'm going to put tab, and the same this end. So I'm just going to go and sew onto the end of the zipper. sewn down just the two side edges of the zipper tab. I'm just going to cut the zipper in line with that. So now I'm going to have the zipper right side facing down. With the zipper closed, I want the pull to my left, and I'm just going to match the centres. Now if you're not confident with zippers, just go and base that edge down. Take the lining and right sides together. I'm just now going to go and sew that down. So I'm putting on the zipper foot and I want it over to the left. And I'm just going to run that along the edge of my zipper. Back stitch. And just move the zipper out of the way. For some reason that didn't sew, so I'm going to have to do that part of the zip again. Oh, for God's sake. I had to unpick and re-sew the zip not so close, but you get the gist. Checking that the zipper works. Match up your centre marks for the outer panel and the zip. Flip it over and then bring the lining up so your lining is right sides together with your lining, and pin that the other side of the zipper. And we're going to go and sew that seam down now. Just moving the zipper out of the way, I'm going to line it all back up again. Continue sewing to the end. And we're going to go and sew down there, down there, down there and down there, just down the 4 short sides. Make sure to backstitch at both ends of each seam. Make sure that your zipper is open, which it is. It's fine. The first thing I'm going to do is just press these seams open on the lining. Take the outer, flatten those corners, making sure that the seam line is down the centre of the zip, and then open out the lining and do the same. And repeat the same for this side. I'm going to draw a seam that is 3/8 of an inch, so 1 centimetre. And draw a seam at this side as well, 3/8 of an inch. Make sure I've got my lining centre. I'm going to go and sew down both of those. I thought that it was recording, but it wasn't. You need to sew all of the corners closed, not just the ones at the zipper, but make sure you leave one of the lining ones open so that you can turn the pouch the right side out. So now that we've sewn all of the corners but left one open, we're going to flip the pouch. We're going to bring it through that opening. And then we have a little pouch, so bring the lining out. And now we're just going to tuck those under and top stitch that hole up. I just hot glued some lace flowers that I had on the front and just made a little tassel for the ring pull.